that's spoilers. That's what the whole book is about. Because one of the things that I got the most frustrated about is that when I kind of found out that I had ADHD and I started sort of looking for, okay, well, what do I do? There would be all of these like tips and tricks. It was always just like a nonstop onslaught of tips and tricks. And sometimes the tips or tricks would be good. Sometimes the tips or tricks would be bad. But there didn't exist that I could find a lot of information around like why something might work or why something might not work for a particular brain. And so when we started writing the book, what I really wanted the book to be about was about building systems and structures that actually work for you. Like I can give you 50 tips or tricks on how to like not lose your keys, but dependent on the day, on the time, what's going on in your life, external stressors, your emotional state, all of these different factors, like those all go into something as simple as where did I put my keys? That's my humble brag. Is apparently there's like months long waiting lists for the book at some libraries, which I think is really funny. I'm so in demand at libraries. You have no idea.
I love that your list of like a positives gets longer and longer. Potentially banned artist,
right? It's so
like
it's like
at libraries.
Right? My grad program, they sent me such a stupid story. I don't even care. They sent out this like alumni like update for. They're like, hey, we're like putting together like a thing of like where are they now, like alumni stuff. And the humble bragging that I did on this alumni update. And I was like, best-selling author. And I was very schmarmy about it. And so I was like, oh, I should have done that. I should have done that too. That would have been good.
Do you know what it takes to have a bestseller at this point in time that is not like a professional version of a fanfic?
Well, okay, so here's a funny story. Okay, so we got bestseller, we got instant bestseller, which apparently like I don't know what that means, but that the publisher kept saying instant bestseller. I was like, cool.
You got a lot
like
of pre-orders.
I kept thinking oatmeal. I don't know. But I was like oatmeal. But then I think it was USA Today does their like bestseller list differently, where they just look at like every single book that has been like bought that week, and then they like list them. And so we were like top 100. I think we were like 70 something. We were like in the 70s, but the one right below us was Brown Bear, what do you see? And I don't know why, but I think that is the funniest fucking thing that has ever happened to me, is that we narrowly beat out Brown Bear, what do you see, for like place number 75 on the USA Today bestseller list. But then I looked, and
Excellent.
Green Eggs and Ham was number 7. And then Heated Rivalry was like number 9. And I was like, this is a weird fucking list.
This is chaotic.
But it was so funny. And so for the rest of my life, whenever I think about being a bestseller, I'm going to think about Brown Bear. What do you think?
Oh my God.
I was thinking yesterday about how like when you put out art, like you don't know what is going to resonate with someone or why, and you don't know what context it's going to be seen in. And I was like, I love that that's the context for this book.
Yeah. That's like, I don't know. That's like been the whole tour. The tour has been like that. The tour has been like, because nobody was expecting it. Nobody was expecting it. They kind of don't still know what it is. Like, they're like, what is this? Like, why are we here? And so, yeah, like putting out like art into the world and then just being like, sure, hope people don't hate it. Like it's been a real exercise in like, I don't know, like imposter syndrome and rejection sensitivity all at the same time, of just like being on stage, just like doing something that feels good and right, and then just being like, God, I hope they get it. Like, I hope they're like, they know what I'm going for here.
That was like watching Eddie Izzard do one person Hamlet.
Yeah. Oh my God, I want to see that so bad. But yeah, I don't know. Like the whole thing has just been that. The whole thing has just been like, God, I hope people get what I'm trying to do, and I hope that I did it well enough, and I hope that I didn't do it in a way that, like causes harm or hurts anybody's feelings. And because it's hard to talk about some of this stuff. It's hard to talk about, some of these topics without We just tried so hard. We tried so hard to be like really sensitive and kind and compassionate, because that's what the book is about. It's about being kind and compassionate to yourself. And it's really funny how mean I've been to myself the whole time while writing a book about being kind and compassionate to yourself. I was like, if it's not perfect, I'm a terrible fucking failure. Ah!
It has to be kind enough.
It has to be. It's not kind enough. Like, people keep giving me shit because I'm doing like a signing tour, speaking tour thing, and people keep giving me shit because I don't sign it in the place where I'm supposed to sign it. I sign it on the hold on, I'll show you because it's helpful for a visual reference. You're supposed to apparently sign it like here. I don't sign it there. I sign it on I sign it here. I sign it on this page. And the reason why I signed it on this page is because this page took us 2.5 weeks to write these sentences. There are 2 sentences on this page. It took us 2 weeks to write it because we agonized. This was the hardest page in the entire book to write. And it was just because we wanted it to be right. We wanted it to be good. We wanted it to be perfect. And I don't know if there is such a thing as perfection, but I do know that I've gotten a lot of DMs about people who open the book and immediately start crying. So I was like, I think we did an okay job.
I feel like as terrible as it sounds, like as an artist and a therapist, if someone's crying around me, that's actually usually my indicator that I've done something right.
Right?
And
people
then
people keep DMing me and they're like, oh my God, I keep reading your book and then I have to put it down because I keep crying. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I hope you're like, and they're like, no, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. But I'm like, I'm like, oh God, I made somebody cry. I made an internet stranger cry. I'm a terrible person. And then they're like, no, it's
good pathos. Good pathos.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Well, and that was in your comorbidity section, which also comes up with my clients a ton, where people are like, I think I might have the brain spice, but also tummy no work good.
Tummy no work good.
Flailing.
Tummy no work
Hormones.
good.
Why?
Incredibly common comorbidity. Tummy no work good.
Tummy no work good. And like so many clients, I have lost track of the amount of people that have been like, gosh, it's so weird that like my ADHD symptoms seem to get worse at certain times of the month. And like I had to educate my own psychiatrist about it.
Oh my God. If like a magic fairy came down, it was like you can teach one thing to everybody about ADHD, it would just be like just hormone cycle and the way that because it is wild. I make every month I get my period, I make a video about it every single month. That's how you know, because I just go, hey, like I'm reminded you, here's your monthly reminder. And then every month I talk about like the hormonal cycle and how like the luteal phase will fuck your life up and like all of these different things. And every single time, every single month, there are hundreds of comments being like, what the fuck do you mean? No one has ever told me this. I've been living my whole life. And like even just like the studies around like the efficacy of ADHD medication during that time period goes down. And it is wild to me. I get like mind bogglingly white out angry about that, because it's just like there are so many people like active suicidality for some people. Like the PMDD is so bad, like actively suicidal for like a week out of the month, and you just go deal with it. Like just fucking deal with it. Like that's insane. That is insane. That is like the strategy that we have developed. Is have you tried just trying harder? Like, oh my God, just the white hot rage that fills my body.
How about we throw hormonal birth control pills at you, and when one doesn't work, try another one, and when that one doesn't work, try another one, without funding research into the ability to kind of make an educated guess about which combinations might. And so it's like, oh, do you feel like this for your luteal phase? Yeah. How about that's your whole life until you give up on this particular pill?
Yeah. I had such a bad experience. Like I have just like a copper IUD now because hormonal birth control ruined my life. Like that shit ruined my life. And I try to be very like judicious in talking about it, because it's like, every person is different. Every body is different. Like ADHD is going to react differently in different people. And so it's like, I try to be really careful about talking about those kind of experiences, but like hormonal birth control was one of them. And I went through like all of them. Like I went through all of them. And it was like, just like migraines and excruciating headaches all the time. Like it was awful. And then finally I went to my doctor, and I just like begged. I was like, I cannot do this. Like, I cannot do this. And so that was when I got the copper IUD, and it was one of the best decisions that I have made in my entire life. Because it was just, I finally was like, I just didn't have to do it anymore, and it was just like such a relief. But yeah, I will. Oh, I wish somebody would study hormonal birth control and ADHD a little bit more, because I have the feeling that there's like some really interesting stuff there.
I do have a friend working on their own PhD. They're not quite done with the, writing the thesis part. But last I heard, the focus was on hormones and mental health, like specifically
awesome.
hormones like progesterone.
Cool.
So I will definitely
That's very interesting.
circulate when when that comes out in any form. I'll be like, hey Pam, tell Cate.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Pass through the grapevine.
But it's
right.
I remember early in the process them talking about the complete dearth of information. Like, and
it's wild.
They're really smart. They're really well trained. They're really capable. Like, if they're not finding it, it's because there is so little of it.
I have a really funny story about that, but I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for telling it or not.
Should it be magically off the record?
I'm not going to use any names. That's what I'll do. I'll do it that way.
Colloquial secret.
I had this really weird experience where, like I sent out my book, like ahead of time to people to check it out. And I got this strongly worded email from somebody who is like an expert in their field, about how in the book I talk about the correlation between ADHD and autism. And they were very upset, and they were like, you can't print this book. This is crazy. Your book is wrong. You can't print this in the book. And I was like, what are you talking about? They're like, it's way too high. The correlation is way too high. You can't claim that this is the correlation between ADHD and autism. It's way too high. And I have rejection sensitivity and I frequently gaslight myself into thinking that I must be wrong. And so I sent all of the studies. And I was like, here are all of the studies that talk about the overlap. Here are all of the studies that talk about like the prevalence of this and then the amount of this and whatever. Surely I'm not mistaken. Surely I know how to read a study. Surely whatever. And I got this like follow-up, it was surly. That's why I can't name names. It was surly. I got a surly follow-up email that was like, well, I just think that maybe you should just think about how you phrase it. And I was just like, just say you were wrong. But it's like, I remember that so specifically because I kept running into that over and over again when I was writing the book. I would go down these research rabbit holes of like, I would just get curious. I would just get curious about like hormones or like whatever, progesterone and ADHD. And like, there would be nothing. Like, it was again, like one of the reasons why we specifically included the chapter about like trans and non-binary people that I keep like harping on is because we are, I think, somebody checked, and we're like the only book published by a major publisher that actually acknowledges that like trans and non-binary people have a different ADHD experience than like other people.
To my knowledge, you are, and bless you for doing that.
And it was kind of the same thing around like why we brought in guest experts to talk about like the BIPOC and like just the experience of being a person of color with ADHD and all of these different things, because like there's just so little research. There's just so little research that has been done. And the research that is done often still excludes. Like, they'll study one facet, but it won't be about women, or they'll study women, but they won't study women of color. And so like there are always these like groups that are being left out of the conversation. And so it was really frustrating to me writing a book about ADHD, because every book about ADHD treats ADHD like a fucking island. And like, if you have ADHD, you just have ADHD and you live on ADHD island with your little ADHD problems, and that's great. But I was like, but we all have like 10 comorbidities minimum. Like, we all have sleep issues. We all have issues with like all of these different things. Most of us have depression or anxiety or some other kind of thing. So like, why are we talking about ADHD like it exists in a vacuum? And then they would look at me like I was crazy. They would look at me like I was the one who was being weird about this book. And it got really frustrating. And so, yeah, that has been a very interesting experience, just like being somebody who is doing a lot of research and like trying to find the answers and then realizing like, oh, literally they started researching that like 2 years ago. Like it's wild to me.
Yeah.
I have I want to say it's a massively hot take, but
Ooh, drop it.
It's
Drop
actually
it.
it's like, I cooked it for 12 hours on the stove, like
It's a slow bake.
sarma.
It's a slow
I watched
bake
you
hot
doing
take.
a slow
Cooled it down
wiggle.
and then put it in the freezer in little, repurposed
And,
ice cream
Like you meal
containers, and
prepped
then
this
took
hot
it
take.
back out and heated it up.
Look at that executive functioning for this hot take.
Oh, that's impressive. Gonna wash the Tupperware afterwards too, you overachiever.
Going for it. Science says we think. Science says we have a hypothesis and we're going to test it. And at the end of that test, we can say, this study suggests that, right? If you are a scientist saying is, always, right? You can take that, fold it up your butt, and I hope you have a really bad time and don't use lube. Anyhow. So that's problem number one. Problem
Don't
number
need the
two
waterproof sheets.
is that science is always going back and going, oh no, we like missed something. Like the process of doing a study inherently, like that wasn't as solid as it is now. Turns out we like built like mountains of stuff on, for instance, the belief that all humans everywhere make the same 5 facial expressions for the same 5 basic, and like in retrospect, same 5 basic emotions. And in retrospect, oh no, we screwed up real bad. And like almost all of psychology is based on this belief.
We done messed up.
I mean,
Delicious hot take.
I mean, and I don't know, it's particularly interesting to me because so much of the conversation of ADHD and just neurodivergence as a whole is reliant on, at least in America, like the DSM. And so like, DSM it wasn't until like 2013, 2014 when you could be diagnosed as both autistic and ADHD at the same time. That's like 10 years ago. That's crazy. And so I don't know, like I look at so much of this and I genuinely, and I've said this before and I really do mean it, is I hope my book is wrong in 2 years. I hope that in 2 years I have to go back and I have to update everything because we are actually doing research in the actual places where research is actually done. Because I think it is very silly that there is such a dearth of research and that there is such a lack of just fundamental basic understanding of things like hormones and ADHD and like menopause and ADHD and perimenopause and ADHD and all of that kind of stuff. And so it's like my greatest hope, my true and fervent hope is that in like 5 years my book will be like just completely out of date, and because that means that at least they're asking the right questions and like research is being done in the places, like that's what I hope.
That it's like a trailhead. Like I was reading, a lot of people have come to me asking about limerence, so I'm actually like researching that more and writing about that more, and I might make, now that I'm slightly less burnt to a crisp, videos about that more for the internet.
Yeah.
Woo. But what I found fascinating was that the original researcher of limerence, Dorothy Tenoff, thought that what she was researching was just how people fall in romantic love.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's like, doing her research, asking people these questions, and she was talking to another friend about this. And the friend was just like, hey, I am in what I would consider a really happy marriage. I love my children. I love my partner, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I have experienced none of what you're describing, and it sounds deranged. and so Dorothy Tenoff was like, huh. And so she's like, maybe I'm asking the wrong questions. Maybe I've discovered something else. And so her research ended up shifting, and she realized that there are people who are prone to limerence And then people who don't experience it at all. And so what she thought she was researching was a universal thing until her friend was like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And so it was fascinating that then it branched off. And now this other book I'm reading is about the neuroscience of limerence. And there has been exactly one mention of neurodivergence, but it's talking about like the reward system in the brain and like dopamine prediction and like all of this different stuff. And I'm just like, I don't know what face I just made, and I'm so sorry for whatever it was, but like,
No,
I'm eating my own hands. I'm just
that's
like,
what I felt, and your face matched what I felt in my soul. Because that is, I guess, in a lot of books. I guess in a lot of books, especially books about like sex and relationships. And I like to play a fun game, which is where I read through the book and then I count how many times they talk about whether or not this is like a universal experience. And it is consistently the most disappointing part of my entire life. Because I like, and I don't know, I think it's one of the reasons why I'm so excited for the second book. It is genuinely one of the reasons why I'm so, so excited to read the second book. Because I read these like bestsellers. I read these like bestsellers, like Oprah book club relationship books, where like the authors are like going on like talk shows and talking to Drew Barrymore and shit. And they're always written under the presupposition that everybody in that relationship has the same capacity for executive functioning and working memory and emotional regulation. And if you don't, it's because you're just not trying hard enough, or you just need to like couples therapy your way out of it. And it really has started to bother me. Like it's really started to bother me in like a big way because my like I can try hard all day long. You know, I can try hard until I am quite literally blue in the face. But it is never going to change the fact that my brain is structurally different when it comes to executive functioning. Um, and I really feel like we're doing a lot of people a disservice. And I feel like a lot of the messaging and a lot of the, I don't know, conversations that we have around relationships are couched in this like, of course you're normal. Of course everything is functioning exactly the way that it should. And if it's not, then you're broken and you're a bad partner.
and you just don't want to.
And you just don't want to. Like that if he wanted to, he would shit that I hate so very, very much. And so yeah, so it's, I don't know, I just think about that all the time. I just think about the fact that like the presupposition that everybody has the same capacity and abilities and neurological functioning is wild to me.
And the presupposition that everybody is coming from the same culture of origin, which in specifically the United States context is utterly delusional to me, because the strength, even putting subcultures and the fact that the country is so big and so you get these, you know, broad regional differences aside.
Yeah.
And the thing that's, you know, most digs at me is the way that it's just not functional. Right?
Yeah.
No matter what your politics are, if your goal is to help people be more comfortable, vulnerable, able to relate, humans having this little box of how they're supposed to be when, yes, topically for the podcast, their brains are wired differently sometimes and much more, you know, broadly relatable to people who aren't ADHD, autism, something else where the brain has a atypical structure, come from, you know, a big family of one ethnicity in a neighborhood or town that is like 30% that ethnicity. And you're going to have these kind of melded cultural norms that are different. And
Yeah.
I keep harping on Serbia because that's what I'm most familiar with outside of the United States. But the way my partner and I talk to each other, the way I see other people talk to, the cultural norm would be considered by most of the experts that I think of with the kind of profile you described, Cate, they would find horrifying. Like, they're like, that's so rude. You can't
Yeah.
say that. That's,
Yeah.
but what do you mean your boyfriend asked if your headache, temper, and sudden desire for chocolate are because you're like 2 days after ovulating? Like,
Yeah.
you know?
My favorite is like interrupting. I think interrupting is fascinating from like a cultural standpoint, because we like they've studied it like in different cultures. Like interrupting is sometimes just how the communication happens. Is there's like a like you talk now, I talk now, you talk now, I talk like, and there's this very like freneticism to it. And then in some cultures, there's like an expected pause. There is a I finish talking, and then you start talking, and it's very culturally dependent. And so then you throw like ADHD on top of that, and we may, and we have that like lack of impulse control or whatever. So in a culture where interrupting is like frowned on, that is going to impact your life much more than in a society, in a culture, in a family unit where like interrupting is just like par for the course. And the way that like the sort of cultural melting pot, and how like some of those like cultural norms are like borrowed or like exchanged through like different like families and stuff. It's really interesting, like just from like a sociological thing. I don't know where I was going with that, but there you go.
Well, and
uh
I think about that like in my family and like my partner and I, like there's so many things that are so in common, but my family's culture is of interrupting and is of like whatever that is. And even though like I come from a Jewish family, his family is half Jewish, half Irish, and it's like so I would say similar enough. Like I sometimes have to remember to like mentally sit on my hands a bit because I want to make sure that he's really getting his full thought out because he has trouble with interrupting. Like
yeah.
it interrupts his train of thought. Whereas for
Yeah.
me, it kind of dovetails. I'm like, could there be two trains on a track? Whatever, more trains, just stack trains. Like I turn into like Blade Runner, but like, and
Right.
so like, and so it's weird that I'm like, oh, okay, we grew up in almost such like not identical, but such similar ways. But even because of our family cultures, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna wait, gonna wait some more, gonna make sure that he's done, gonna look for the done cues have happened, and like whenever I do occasionally interrupt him, and he's like, I wasn't finished, I'm like, sorry, and like no harm, no foul, but I'm kind of like, whoop. Like,
Well, I think that's the thing, is as long as you can do that, right? Like as long as there's that acknowledgement of the like oops, and then like that's how you keep a relationship healthy, is just not, no, it's my turn. Like, no, sometimes you gotta go oops and you just move on with your day.
yeah,
One of the things that I appreciated most about your book is that you offer, aside from Patera,
Pateri.
Pateri, yeah. Aside from Pateri, who needed to say the things Pateri says, you just offer a few different ways of doing things in examples and the mechanism of the example. Right? Like you're like, so an example is this. I don't think you used that exact like sort of setup, but it's like, so here's like a little parable shaped, one way to do it.
Yeah.
And what that's doing is this, and it strikes me as something where people can be like, oh, I have a pretty solid grasp through the story type thing, and now here it is, how that functions, and if that particular version isn't going to work for me, I can now try to find my own version.
Yeah. Well, that's spoilers. That's what the whole book is about. Because one of the things that I got the most frustrated about is that when I kind of found out that I had ADHD and I started sort of looking for, okay, well, what do I do? There would be all of these like tips and tricks. It was always just like a nonstop onslaught of tips and tricks. And sometimes the tips or tricks would be good. Sometimes the tips or tricks would be bad. But there didn't exist that I could find a lot of information around like why something might work or why something might not work for a particular brain. And so when we started writing the book, what I really wanted the book to be about was about building systems and structures that actually work for you. Like, I can give you 50 tips or tricks on how to like not lose your keys, but dependent on the day, on the time, what's going on in your life, external stressors, your emotional state, all of these different factors, like those all go into something as simple as where did I put my keys? And so it was sort of like a teach a man to fish sort of situation where like, yeah, I could be like, get a key bowl, great. Or I could spend the book talking about how to build a system and structure and how to examine your life and how to really meticulously boil down your needs. Um, the the sort of like joke that I say is that, so I have a podcast, it's called Sorry I Missed This, and it's about ADHD and its impact on relationships. But the joke of the show that I truly didn't expect was that the entire show has just become about the importance of being able to advocate for your needs and ask for what you want and ask for what you need. Um, and so I very quickly realized like that is the skill set that a lot of people don't have. A lot of people never learned how to ask for what they want. They'll read the tips and tricks. They'll try 50 things. The 50 things won't work. And they'll go, oh, I'm such a fuck up. I'm such a failure. I can't do anything right. When in reality, what they lack is the ability to build their own personalized system, their own structures that are actually going to function based on the conditions of their life. And so yeah, so that's kind of why the book is the way that it is because we wanted to give people like actual tools rather than just a bevy of like useless suggestions that may or may not actually work.
Well, and you gave
Um,
a great schema of even how to think about like what are my needs? Because if someone says like, "Oh, how can I help you?" Sometimes I'm like,
yeah,
and
it's
so
hard to
yeah,
know. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And yeah, and like that was the thing, and it was funny because so my co-author Eric, we have like nearly backwards parallel journeys of ADHD. He was diagnosed very early in life. I was diagnosed very late. He really struggled in school. All of my self-worth and accomplishments were set up in being really great at school. He really struggles with reading. I'm an incredible reader. He really struggles with writing. I'm a great writer. It's like so we had this sort of like opposite parallel track. And so one of the things that we very quickly realized is, but we still have the same diagnosis. On paper, we have the same thing. But his thing and my thing look incredibly different. And so what helps Eric a lot of times would be completely useless for me or to the point of like frustrating me or like making me mad, right? And so when you meet one person with ADHD, you meet one person with ADHD. And so I genuinely like my spicy hot, slow baked, meal prepped hot take is that I generally find most ADHD resources useless because they tend to treat it like it's this like cookie cutter thing. But every facet of your life is impacted by ADHD, but also your life impacts every facet of your ADHD. So, where you live, the culture that you come from, the belief systems around things like interrupting or, like respecting your elders or whatever it might be, all of those things are going to impact how you approach the world and how you navigate through the world. And so, just put your keys on a hook is not particularly useful. Um, and so yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but like that was kind of it was we just very quickly realized that you can't give cookie cutter advice to ADHD brains because we're all dealing with just a different assortment of comorbidities and complications and sociological issues and all of these different things. And so like, yeah, it's about teaching the man to fish. It's not about handing out fish sticks.
I think I know where you were going. I think you arrived at a point where you've summarized all these things that we've delved into throughout the conversation that lead to what the book is and why you wrote it and the ways that future research and your future books will hopefully expand in that kind of direction instead of this dogmatic, as though there is a normal ADHD
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's funny because like in the kink community, we always talk about like, like the domly doms who are just like the worst. Like, but it's like I don't know. I feel that way about like ADHD, where it's like there's no like one true way to like ADHD.
I call
It's
them the Kool-Aid Man doms that just come in and are like, "Call me sir," and you're like, "Who are
yeah.
you? Why are you here?
Like
Why'd
look
you
at
just
my
break through my
vest.
wall?"
It's made of leather.
I have an
Revolutionary.
impact implement. Bow
It's so
down.
funny.
If you consent, say you consent. Say you consent to bowing
I'm just
down.
imagining this would be like, "Put your keys on a hook. Put your keys on a hook now."
I like your fedora.
Oh, God.
But like I don't know. But yeah, like that's there's like you know exactly who I'm talking about. You know
Oh
exactly.
yeah.
It's like
No,
one
there's
guy.
there's
yeah, I
always
don't
there's
know.
always the one.
That was the one guy. Like that's the truest part of the whole thing is like I feel like literally when I got diagnosed with ADHD, they handed me a pamphlet. Like they handed me a fuck off trifold brochure pamphlet like ADHD, like what you need to know, and it was nothing that I needed to know. It was
No.
nothing that I needed to know. And yeah, and so it's that kind of idea of just the like you get this diagnosis and then it's like okay, well, here's your medication, good luck, but like pills don't teach skills as they say. And so yeah, so I feel like the entire conversation we have around ADHD is just like fundamentally flawed. And so that's what the field guide's for, like it was for all of the stuff that we don't talk about, we don't really discuss at length. And hopefully, if I get to write the next one, I'm really hoping that like that will go a long way into like a lot of like the sex and the intimacy and the relational stuff. Because there's a chapter, we had a fight for a chapter about sex and relationships in this book, but I'm really, really proud of it. Because yeah, it's that's so much of that is the stuff that they don't put in the brochure.
You should be proud of it because, I mean, Pam probably knows more than I do, but I have never seen most of what you cover in that short chapter anywhere in from a big publisher.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was why my interjection was like, "Can we help you with the next one? How can we support you in writing the sequel?"
I'll probably hit you up. Honestly, I probably will. I don't know because I want to do. I don't know. It's sort of in its conceptual phase right now, but I'm sure there will be some kind of something that we can figure out.
Because I'm like,
do you want me to
needed.
pull out? Do you want me to pull out the dominatrix gear and just like send you little gifts that are like, put your keys on the book?
Just like really shitty advice. Like, have you tried getting a planner? I don't know why
set
like
a timer.
Like your dominatrix persona is just Christian Bale's Batman.
Oh, no, I made it so much weirder. I said, put your keys on the book with a B.
No, like I actually thought about as a joke, like getting like those like turning this into like a shelf and then having like the key hook. I thought about doing that. I thought that'd be very funny.
Oh,
so it works
my God.
as a book hook.
It's a book hook.
Anyway,
maybe a fan will Photoshop that up for you real quick. Yeah,
amazing. Thank you for being so generous with your time.
Oh my God, thank you so much for having me. This was such a fun conversation. I really appreciate it. Do you want me to shell for myself very quickly?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Cate Osborn. On the internet, I go by Catieosaurus, where I educate and advocate about ADHD and its impact on relationships, sex, intimacy, communication, and more. In particular, my work focuses heavily on the intersection of neurodivergence and kink and BDSM. If you want to learn more about me and what I do, you can go to Catieosaurus.com. If you want to check out my new book, it's called The ADHD Field Guide for Adults. It is a bestseller. It is available in hardcover, in an audiobook that I also recorded by myself, and an EPUB if you're an online book reader person. I also am on a national tour. It's called Catieosaurus Wildly Unprepared. And so there are tickets available. All of my tour dates, all of the places where you can see me, all of my signings, all of that good stuff is also available at Catieosaurus.com. And if you just want the free education, if you just want to, learn a little bit more about ADHD and how it might impact you in your life, you can follow me everywhere as Catieosaurus.
Yay! Nailed it. It has been such a delight. I'm so glad we got to do talking.
Yeah, this was amazing. Yeah. Anytime, I'm happy to come back. But yeah, thank you both so much. This was a lovely conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Neuroprovocateurs. Please join us on Substack, where you can find exclusive clips, resources, and community of the neurospicy variety. We are an independent podcast, so know that your support on Substack and beyond means the world to us, quite literally. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to leave us 5 stars and glowing reviews and follow our podcast on your preferred podcast platform so that you can be sure to get each episode the moment it drops, and know that your reviews help us get in front of other people who might also want to listen to this podcast. We are on social media in all of the usual places as Neuroprovocateurs. Thank you again, and excited to see you for our next episode.